Yes, there is a traction in India for manufacturing coming here, and there are many reasons to it. So, first is the geopolitical reason, which is known to everybody. But besides that, one of the another major advantage is our market, the domestic market in India, which is also building up in a bigger way, and it is huge. Then, secondly, I would say the skilled manpower available in our system is the youth and the manpower availability, and that too skilled is rising. I'll not say they are fully available, fully trained, but trainable youth are available.
Yeah.
Third is the policy support of the government, which is the government is trying to push that, and we are pretty hopeful that it will be a success, wherein we will be able to get the right kind of ecosystem developed for the electronics industry to grow.
Colonel Zaidi, thank you so much for joining us on Policy Musings by BharatGAIN. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's actually very exciting for me because I think this is the first time I'm going to be interviewing someone with a military background. And, that particularly is something that brings up fond memories for me. I come from a family of people who served in the army. So, very excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So, sir, I really wanted to, sit down with you for a number of reasons. And one in particular was to, understand MAIT. And now I work in policy, so I have a, understanding of what the association does. But we have a lot of viewers who perhaps aren't, initiated and don't know what MAIT does. So for those who don't know, could you, kind of take us through what MAIT is, what it does, and what its mission statement really all is about?
Great, that's an interesting question. So, actually, MAIT's full form is Manufacturers Association of IT, which basically stands for the IT hardware industry. And MAIT is unique in the sense that it is probably one of the only or a few associations which has been conceptualized by the government.
Okay.
Way back in 1982, there was a Society of Science which was basically managed by the scientists and senior government officials, and they decided that there's a need for an association which focuses on the IT hardware, and that is where the MAIT was conceptualized. And MAIT was the prime association at that time, but then liberalization happened, and which was actually good for the country, and software took a bigger role there.
Absolutely.
So that was the time when the hardware manufacturing reduced in India. And so around late 90s and early 2000s, it was more of software which was given the focus, and therefore hardware manufacturing was reduced and imports were introduced. But now again the time has come back wherein we are in a window where hardware manufacturing has to come to us. And that is where we are playing our role. We are into policy advocacy, ease of doing business, business development. All those issues for this sector is being handled by MAIT.
Very interesting, sir. And so, if I may ask, what, is it only for big companies? Do you guys work with startups? What kind of, organizations does MAIT work with? What kind of organizations are your members?
So the entire spectrum is our member.
Okay.
We cater to the entire ecosystem, which deals with mainly the IT hardware part of it. So be it the OEMs, the EMS players, the manufacturers, the component manufacturers, even the recyclers who take the care of the equipment after its life cycle is over, and both small and large players, all are our members.
So, MAIT, whenever it takes a view, has a very, holistic voice, I would say then, because you have a number of members, from different, who have different concerns, I'm sure, and who have different worries. So, it must be very interesting to kind of deal with that. So, how do you kind of balance, sometimes I'm sure there are opposing views as well. So, how do you balance that as, the Director General of the organization?
A very interesting question and equally interesting answer. Probably we are one of the few associations which is very democratic.
Okay.
So we try and ensure that views of all the members are taken into account. And as you rightly brought out, there are situations when there is a opposition between different category of members. So we do try and get the maximum things aligned so that views are covered in a way that it benefits everyone. However, our main focus always remains that the country comes first. We'll always focus on a representation or the advocacy which takes country at the first level, industry at the second level, and individual company or mate is the last in the series.
Interesting, very interesting. Because I do feel there could be a natural tension there between, the priorities of companies sometimes and, the needs of companies. And also, what the government's goals are. Sometimes, they obviously complement each other, but sometimes, there can be a inherent tension. So it's good to see, where MAIT stands on those issues. But sir, as you mentioned, MAIT, looks to serve the nation, and you have, of course, served the nation in the past yourself as well. So, having served in the military for 20 plus years, you then moved on to work at CIA, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So, what was that transition like? Was that a difficult transition for you? Because completely different ways of working, perhaps completely different environment. So, could you talk a bit about that?
Sure. So this is something which is not unique to me, and in every forces officers do feel it. We come from an environment while in the defense services from a very disciplined organization where the work which is supposed to be done has to be done. There's no questions about it, and it's result oriented also. When I transitioned to the civil world, I'll not say that the work is not done. Maybe the work is done in a better way, but it is not in a as structured manner as it is in the defense forces. So we expect something to be done in this time duration. It has to be done.
Yeah.
However, in the civil world, there are challenges, but we are trained in a manner that we can adjust in any situation.
So speaking of training, what skill sets from your military life, or from your military career, do you feel have really served you well while working, in the association space over the last few years?
So discipline is one which I've always followed. Second is the focused approach. And thirdly, I would say is the result oriented aspects which are taken into account. I've always tried to train my team accordingly so that we are focused, remain focused, and the result is what we are trying to get at the end of it. So we don't end up wasting efforts and time because of that.
So very structured as your
Right.
military days were. Okay. You touched upon something earlier that I just wanted to come back to, but I, obviously wanted to get a bit of information about, your transition before that. One thing that I was wondering, and you mentioned it, was that, of course, in the early 2000s, there was a bit of an IT boom in terms of software. But now that manufacturing is coming back, and we're seeing that in even a bigger way over the last few years, maybe post COVID, we're seeing, this push around the world to diversify supply chains. And India has been, according to a lot of people, one of the big markets for that, where countries are trying to move manufacturing. So do you believe, A, have you seen that? Is that just something that we see in the newspapers? Is that actually happening? Are you seeing bigger interest from companies over the last couple of years in moving IT manufacturing to India? And B, do you think there are any, natural competitive advantages that India has that attract, people to want to come and manufacture here?
Yes, there is a traction in India for manufacturing coming here, and there are many reasons to it. So, first is the geopolitical reason, which is known to everybody. But besides that, one of the another major advantage is our market, the domestic market in India, which is also building up in a bigger way, and it is huge.
Yeah.
Then, secondly, I would say the skilled manpower available
Okay.
in our system is the youth and the manpower availability, and that too skill is rising. I'll not say they are fully available, fully trained, but trainable youth are available.
Yeah.
Third is the policy support of the government, which is the government is trying to push that, and we are pretty hopeful that it will be a success, wherein we will be able to get the right kind of ecosystem developed for the electronics industry to grow. And the last but not the least is also the digital ecosystem which is growing in our country. That is also supporting to a large extent.
No, that's a very interesting thing you mentioned, especially on the government policy support, because I actually did want to ask you about that. So, of course, the Prime Minister, since he's come into office in 2014, has been a big believer, first in Make in India, and now in the idea of a self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar India. And we've seen a number of policies, in that direction, whether it's PLIs or, electronic component manufacturing scheme. What policies do you think, have been really advantageous? How have companies that you work with, that Mate works with, how have they reacted to them? Have they been received well? Do they feel they're in the right direction? Can you talk a bit about that?
See, it's a dual-edged question that you have asked. One is the government also has to balance the both things.
Of course.
Country and the industry both have to be balanced. And that is where the policies are made. So there are certain policies which certainly help the industry to grow. The PLIs, as you rightly brought out, they will certainly help, and some of the industries have already gained advantage. For example, the mobile industry has certainly gained from PLI, and that's why we are successful. I mean, reaching from 30 million to 200 million phones is a big number. We have been able to work on that. And that is again because of the policies which are in place, which are helping us grow. Having said that, there are other policies also, the PLI 2.0 for the IT hardware and all, which has still not taken the growth path as such, but they are tuned to, they will, there's no other option. And especially when the component scheme has come in, it will complement these policies which are there earlier and help the ecosystem grow. But having said that, there are also certain policies which ensure that government purchases are from Make in India devices only, the systems only, which at times the industry feels is not right, but government has to do that to encourage the manufacturing in India. So it's both things happening simultaneously.
Yes. And so is that something that companies, have been kind of advocating for changes in? Is that something that Mate is kind of, looking towards the government to kind of, aid in maybe modifying or changing?
No, so as I said earlier, our focus is also the country comes first. So we are complementing it.
Yeah.
So if you have to provide for Make in India components to the government, so start manufacturing, we are helping them in setting up their manufacturing units, whatever policy advocacy is required, the ease of doing business issues, the compliances, those things we are trying to help them out.
In terms of ease of doing business, I'm sure there are also foreign companies that work with Mate who are looking to manufacture in India. So, how do they perceive the ease of doing business, in India vis-a-vis countries who are also, maybe in Southeast Asia or other countries that are looking, at being manufacturing hub in this China plus one era? Has there been any, have you been able to gauge how people feel about India in terms of ease of doing business?
See, India is a peculiar country, I would say, in the sense, especially being democratic. We have certain regulations which are to be followed, and certain policies are made in a way that they are effective and helpful for the country. So, at times, multinationals have felt that there is no consistency, there are certain issues, but the government is supportive enough to always answer to that and try to help them out in getting it sorted out. Having said that, the situation in US right now is even worse. You never know what policy is coming
That's
when.
true. That's true.
So there's no questions about that then. So we are maybe better than that. Our stability is more.
Absolutely. Do you feel that we're on the right path in terms of policy to continue growing as a manufacturing hub? Are there any things that you feel need to be done or could be done to improve our opportunity into growing into an even bigger manufacturing hub as a country?
See, if our aim is bigger, which of course is, there are certain things which certainly need to be improved. And the government is aware of it, they're working on it. So, few things which come to my mind offhand is firstly is again in the policy, the government does keep country always first, which is right. But there's also a recommendation from our side that government should also see the manufacturer's point of view in this. what could be there. So what happens right now is a policy is made, then views of the manufacturers come in, and then there is a balance which is made.
Yeah.
If this could be done earlier, which at times is there, there are a lot of discussions which happen before the policy
A lot
comes
of
in.
stakeholder consultation.
Large number of it. And again, there's a challenge for government also because varying inputs come and to strike a balance is a very difficult thing. But then one more thing which needs and which is a bigger disability for us in our country and for the manufacturing is the logistics part of it. World, we are at around 12 to 14%, whereas the world or the China is at 7 to 8%, which is a huge margin.
The logistic costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that needs to be worked out. Government is working, but still there is a lot of more push is required. And that would also include, let's say, the turnaround time. We initiated a scheme, a very interesting scheme, which is ERSO, Electronic Repair Outsourcing.
Okay.
So what we are trying to build India is also as a repair hub for the electronics.
Interesting.
So what happens in that is the damaged, not damaged equipment, the equipment which is not working correctly is brought here, repaired and sent back. It's a huge market worldwide. And we are trying to take a small percentage, around 20% also, which as per our calculation comes to around $20 billion.
Wow.
So which is a huge number. So in those cases, the countries who are developed and have already taken a leap, the turnaround time is in hours. And in our case, earlier it was 7 to 8 days. We got it reduced to 2 days, but we are still working to reduce it to further down. So those kind of things are also there. So that is included in the logistics cost.
No, that repair, that subject gives me, a perfect segue to ask about this. And this is something that's been on my mind, ever since, we scheduled to do this. Obviously, we all want manufacturing, especially of IT technology, to grow because, tech is really where the value added is coming nowadays. But one, concern that some people might have or that, we see in our everyday life is as, the products, electronic products increase, the e-waste is also increasing. And of course, as you mentioned, repairing is one thing, but a lot of people, just discard their, old products and things like that. So as, the problem of e-waste is rising, are you seeing, is that something that companies that you work with are aware of? And, are they taking any steps at their level to address this? Or are they only kind of looking towards government policies like EPR for that?
Yes. So I'd like to highlight here that MAIT is probably one of the, if not the only, one of the few associations in the IT domain which is working very strongly in the e-waste part. Not only e-waste, battery, plastic, all waste. So MFCC and CPCB, we are working very closely with them. And coming back to your question, firstly, the EPR rule which has come mandates for every organization to ensure that whatever they have manufactured gets recycled after a duration. But besides that, the MNCs are already aware.
Yeah.
They are already working on it. The challenge comes for the smaller companies. There are some companies who are not even aware of the EPR requirements. And that is where the challenge comes up. So we on our own have also started doing various initiatives where we are making people aware. We have even gone to the schools, made children aware that there's something called e-waste. And then we started a campaign wherein children brought e-waste to their schools, and we had recyclers place their things where they could collect e-waste, and we gave a certificate to the children who did.
That's very sweet. That's actually a really good idea.
Ecosystem is being developed at the childhood itself. You understand that it is not something which should be thrown away. There are hazards to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need more robust recycling. Like we're talking about developed countries before this, So the Western countries, they have very strict rules about segregating waste, in those countries, and everyone is very aware of them. So I think awareness is a big challenge, like you mentioned. But you said MNCs, so they're all supportive of the policy. They don't see any gaps in the EPR policy right now.
So there are certain challenges about the pricing and certain rules, regulations, which is an ongoing process, and I think it will take another maybe 1 or 2 years to stabilize. But once that is done, then things will be pretty easy.
We look forward to that. One other thing that I've come across, in our own research as well as an organization and conversations with say e-recyclers and waste management companies is that does it really need to formalize, the e-waste sector, so to speak? A lot of the workers working in it, it's informal. The way they do it, the methodology they use isn't always the best. And often it leads to them not extracting the right materials from the products and things like that. So is formalization of the waste pickers and recyclers something that concerns me?
Certainly it does. And it is a very important aspect. See, we are such a huge country that it is not easy to do it with a switch of a button.
Course.
It will take a lot of time. So what is being done is that even these smaller players, the kabadiwalas or these guys, are being educated of the advantages that you get by getting it properly recycled. So what is happening right now is that there are two kind of things which are happening. One is they pick up a thing and try to repair it on their own. If they are able to do it, they try to sell it. Otherwise, extract the relevant component and just dump everything else, which is a big disadvantage for the country as such, I would say, because there are large number of precious elements in it which just get discarded,
Absolutely.
which can only be extracted through a proper recycling process, which is missing. And besides that, it is hazardous for them. The
Yes.
way people do it, I have been told from authentic sources that their lifespan reduces to less than 40 years. That's the average life of a person who is not recycling, discarding this electronic equipment improperly. Burning the entire PCB to extract something out of it. That brings out some hazardous gases or whatever. The life cycle is reduced. Less than 40 years is what we have been told. We are trying to educate that as well.
That's tragic, and I'm so happy that you guys are running an initiative to make these people aware of the risk that they're putting their health upon their health. So yeah, I mean that's actually quite a jarring fact to know. But yeah, I think as we grow in manufacturing, I think the way we tackle e-waste will also have to kind of grow with it. And another initiative that the government came out with was, that is in discussion with, maybe you can educate me on where things are at in this, is the right to repair. And, I think it's a fairly interesting idea. I would love to know, how the industry has kind of thought of it and where things are on the idea of right to repair from the government standpoint.
So, the discussion is already on at a very advanced stage. We were part of the committee which worked on it. Right now, the government is working only on the mobile and the tablets part of it.
Okay.
The idea is to increase maybe the life cycle of the equipment and formalize the repairing processes, which is a good thing. It has been done already in Europe. We are in a way trying to replicate it with slight modifications suitable to our country. So working on it, it is in the process. It will very soon come out for public consultation, maybe in a month or so. I don't know the exact timeline, but soon it should be out, and then it will become a policy at a later stage. So industry is also aligned. People have whatever issues were there have been resolved to a large extent. So looking forward to
So on this occasion, the government has worked very closely with the industry
Yes.
on figuring this out.
Mostly the government works closely with the industry. It just takes time to get the right things in place.
I think that's also maybe a factor of that. There's so many voices for the government also. Take account of everyone's and then to adjust policies while keeping their priorities in mind.
Exactly. Just for example, for the right to repair, there were two sides to it, I would say. One was the industry, another was the consumer side.
Yeah.
Both at cross ends, everybody having an opposing view, but why media was achieved where both were satisfied. To a level.
I'm glad, and I look forward to the discussion paper coming out from the government side. Now that you've been doing this for a while and you've seen all sides of it, what is your keenest observation on the real strength of developing associations in this country when companies come together to discuss ideas and then present a unified front in front of the government? What value do you see in that, and how have you seen that with your own eyes?
See, it is very important to have a common voice. Government also would want to listen to a common voice. Individual companies going to place and trying to get their views will not always help. And in our case, we try and get the blend of both the MNCs and the Indian companies together. So that common voice has a very strong value attached to it. We also add the country first aspect to it, which fortunately all of our members, even MNCs, support.
That's amazing.
So that helped, mainly because everybody in MNC is Indian.
Yeah, true.
So in heart, everybody is Indian, and that support comes to us, and we are able to push that forward, and which is also accepted by the government.
Wonderful. If there's any sector, that you feel, could really get an advantage or really could use a push from more government support, what would that be within, the larger manufacturing of IT technologies in the country?
See, basically every sector needs something or the other, but right now, which government has already focused on, is building up the ecosystem for that.
Okay.
The value addition in India has to increase to a certain level from what it is right now, which will happen with the components being developed here. Certain amount of components are already developed. There's a need to get more onto it, and also support the Indian manufacturers in building it up.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Just as a final question to you, everything I've thrown at you, you've given me such, beautiful and concise answers. I just wanted to ask you from both perspectives, because you work with both sides. If, any message that you would want to give, manufacturers in the country about, the development of the manufacturing ecosystem in the country from a government perspective, and vice versa, any message you'd like to give to, the government on behalf of manufacturers, what would it be?
Well, that's an interesting question. But for the manufacturers, my suggestion would be, see, I cannot give a specific question, one answer to the entire manufacturing spectrum. It's a huge spectrum from a micro to a major.
Yeah.
So I would restrict my answer right now is to the smaller players more, because they need more of advice. Larger players, as it is, won't listen to me. So what I would suggest is that try and focus on R&D also,
Okay.
rather than just trying to get inputs from whatever established things. Focus on R&D, get government support on it, and also try to tap the international market. Look at making your business grow ahead to exports as well,
Absolutely.
not just the country part of it. That would be a interesting thing which they can use to build their business as well. And to the government, I would say that try to think from the manufacturer's point of view. I just reiterate that.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Sure. Look forward to it. Thank you for coming and meeting us.
To our viewers, thank you for joining us. We always look to bring you the best conversations in policy, so stay tuned for more such conversations. Thank you.